He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time with Jon and Niall, and I guess you just rhyme with Bat Minute!
Attention, citizens of Gotham. If revenge is a dish best served cold, then put on your Sunday finest because Bat Minute has returned once more. Welcome back to, clearly, the greatest season of the show yet. Bat Minute and Robin, minus a Robin. We don't have a Robin.
Like those opening seconds were that good. People are already saying this is the best season of the show.
I mean, it's hard to argue. Well, people are going to argue. This movie, of course, is Batman and Robin. The most controversial. One of the most controversial Batman. I think the most.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
More than, I know Zack Snyder gets a lot of stick and things. This is a lot more contentious with people. Whereas I'm just going to say it up front. Episode 1, minute 1. I like this film. It's not a good movie, if that makes sense, but I have a blast every time I watch it.
Weird. Oh, by the way, I'm Niall McGowan.
Oh, yeah, and I'm John Parker.
My name is McGowan. Learn it well. What's the chilling sound of your co-host?
We're going to be doing impressions more than ever, I think.
I was like, that's the first one. I've been holding back on Arnie impressions this whole time. It's like, we're going to have a whole goddamn year of it when we get to the fourth one. So. Because it's all all-time worst film lists and stuff. This is up there. It's the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards garnered 5 nominations, but lost to Speed 2 Cruise Control. And later, the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards unveiled the 100 Years 100 Stinkers list, which honored the 100 worst films of the 20th century. And Batman and Robin was third. And the thing is, when it comes out and says things like that, where you're like, yeah, it's an absolute turd, it's the worst thing ever. That, to me, though, indicates a level of incompetence on the filmmaker's part.
Definitely.
And I don't think a lot of this is that they didn't know what they were doing.
No. It's 100%. Let's make it campy and kind of 60s.
To go through it minute by minute, well, I am of the mind that some of this is actually nailing exactly what it wants to do. And some of it is a bit just haphazardly done. And it's up to us now to decipher which bits of this. And so you could actually walk away from this experience being like, it could be one of the best Batman movies if you just accept that, this is what they're going for.
Yeah,
but,
I think it is in a way. It's 100% nailing what it wants to do. It's a world away from Tim Burton, even more than the last film.
Oh, yes.
The last film still had one foot in the Burton verse, let's say. This one is just on its own planet, which is not a bad thing. It might not be your cup of tea. It's not dark and brooding. It's the opposite.
But there definitely are problems, though, in the production, as we'll talk about as we go on. But, as we go from film to film, the first minute we usually do kind of do a little what happened between the movies to make it, And this one's actually a lot kind of briefer because, there was a whole big thing of Burton departing and after Returns and Schumacher been brought in and all the production and whatnot.
Yeah, the only thing in this really is Val Kilmer, and we've already talked about that.
Yeah. Although I do have one additional point from looking into material about Batman and Robin. I was like, wait a minute, what? But we'll get to that when we get to it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, basically, I think the major problem with this, and I think a lot of people, everyone involved in it, from Joel Schumacher, who of course people now know was tragically R.I.P. Joel, but was very apologetic about this film. And every bit of material you watch on Batman and Robin, he is always saying this is what happened here. And, we got roped into this. But I should add, I am not criticizing anyone. I walked into this with my eyes wide open. If you're going to blame anyone, blame me.
Oh, see, that's noble of him. But I don't think anyone should be blamed. It's not the worst movie.
he's such like an effervescent presence as well. He's always so like, oh, I can't stay mad at you, Joel. You know, he's just got to kind of, he's just so laid back about like, yeah, well, I'm very sorry that this upset you.
Oh, that's really sweet. Although, let me say this to the listeners, right? Although we're both being quite positive, me especially, we are going to make fun of this movie. There's a lot to make fun of and laugh at.
I don't think there's any way you could not make fun of this movie.
I just don't want people to think that we're coming into it like, oh yes, it's a very serious film. You know,
this is the deep analysis of the psychology behind Batman and Robin. Although we will get into that as well.
Yeah. You know, everyone knows us by now. We're a multifaceted unit. We have fun and we go deep.
But basically, I think what the major problem is, and as all of the people involved in it, from Joel to the producer, Peter McGregor Scott, and, Akiva Goldsman, everyone. Basically, and you can see the writing on the wall, is that Batman and Robin comes out the summer of 95, big hit. At that point, Joel Schumacher and Akiva Goldsman are doing location scouting for A Time to Kill, which comes out, which is a 2.5-hour legal drama. It's very, very dark. It's very, very deep. It's a very intense film.
I'm glad you mentioned it was a legal drama, because I forgot about that movie. And when you said the title, I was like, he did a Bond?
It actually is a very Bond title. I never considered it that way. And actually, weirdly enough, just yesterday, they announced that HBO is doing a sequel series starring Matthew McConaughey. He's coming, so they're sequelizing a Joel Schumacher movie by coming back into it through McConaughey.
So what we're asking for then is a sequel to this with Clooney back in the cowl.
Clooney has recently joked about returning to the role. I think he said, because with all the news of Keaton coming back, people have said to him, like when he's out promoting that Midnight Sky thing that he just did. They're saying like, oh, so have you got any calls for a Batman cameo? And he's just laughing, going like, oh yeah, weirdly enough, I haven't gotten a call about it. But...
Oh, you know what? As well, the last time I watched this to prep for the season, just a couple of days ago, I might finally 50% be coming round to him in this film.
Ooh, well,
no, I don't love him, but I think there's some stuff he does well, which we'll get to.
But anyway, so those two guys, like July, August of 95, location scouting to do A Time to Kill, and then the preview buzz is coming back, and Joel kind of comes over to Keith and is like, I think we might get asked to do another movie. And so as they're on the plane, they put together the skeleton of what Batman and Robin is going to be, then immediately go and do an entire film of A Time to Kill, which, as I said, is a very, very intense, very, very dark legal drama. It's a very unpleasant plotline to that whole thing. And then, as soon as that's done, that comes out in 96. This comes out in 97. So they basically made 3 films back to back. And they're all, you can't half-ass these things. And it seems as if the Batman Forever, love it or hate it, is what it is. I love it. And A Time to Kill is a very good, it's got its problems, but it's a very good movie. The one that comes out of it with the kind of kick in the teeth is the shortchanged Batman and Robin, where even everyone involved now has said that, like, yeah, we probably should have waited another year to give us more time to actually make this thing, because we should have just fired into it.
I disagree, though. I get what they're saying, but I don't know. I think they nail what they're going for. I think it's just campy, silly fun. It's like a cartoon come to life, which, okay, isn't my type of Batman. Burton is, Batman Returns is my Batman. But I watched this and I'm smiling from second one. Well, okay, that's a lie, because this minute's boring. But from minute 2 onwards.
I love this. I love this opening. I think, again, much like Batman Forever, I think the opening credits are some of the best minutes in the whole movie. So, shall we commence with minute 1? Should we get into this? Or?
Yeah, we are back now, baby. Let's kick some ice.
Well, notes though, a little bit different from the other ones. At the beginning, there's like 5 whole seconds of darkness, as if the film itself is hesitant to start.
It's like, yeah.
You press play. You got time to back out of this now if you want, And then we do get a slightly different mix of the Goldenthal theme, where beforehand, I think we noted in the last season, you could faintly hear sort of swirling strings. But this time, now they're very prominent, where you can hear this before the...
Again, I love that, though, because I think each movie should have its own variation on the main theme to, convey the tone and the story that's about to unfold. A bit like a Greek play, a Greek tragedy would always start, they would basically come out and tell you the story ahead of time. Like, you are about to witness a tale of woe. It's a bit like that. Like, you want to know what you're in for, and I think that fits the movie a bit more this time.
Although at the same time, it conveys a sort of dark, gothic-y kind of tone, which is like, I wouldn't have started it this way. I think I would have been like, well, if you're going in, you'd almost want to kind of just go, and then just, ramp up the campness straight off the bat.
Well, to be fair, though, I think that only comes into play when you're doing it like we are, minute by minute. When you watch this as a normal film, the action starts immediately, pretty much. Like, you listeners, we are going to be into the action any episode now.
Yeah, I think it's literally minutes 2. We're in. There ain't none of this friggin' first three or 4 minutes of the first season was just like, oh, there's more credits.
No, none of that, baby.
No goddamn mutant bassinets floating down the sewer.
So I get what you're saying, but I think in a normal viewer, that wouldn't really come across. You're already having stuff flying at your face before you've even took that in.
And of course, though, we do get the return, once again, of the Warner Brothers logo. And this logo now, of course, the late Warner Brothers logo. Although from the reaction to it, by the time this airs, it might have been the reinstated Warner Brothers logo. Because I don't know if have you seen the new logo, John? The controversial new opening shield to the Warner Brothers. I saw it for the first time in action just yesterday. I was actually the Snyder Cut, the Zack Snyder Justice League has that up front.
No,
and it is just like, what is this? I don't like this.
Okay, right. I'm gonna look it up on the air right now, because I have not seen, as of recording, the Snyder Cut.
It's if you literally read 2021.
Is it blue?
It's blue and white.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's just really flat. And then if you see it in action, it's just like, it doesn't look as dynamic. It just looks kind of like a dull. It looks like a logo or like a thumbnail for a piece of software on a Microsoft computer. It doesn't scream to you
that. I like the minimalism, and I like minimalist art that's bold, in its design. I like Soviet statues and things. They're simple, they're clean, they're cut, they're very bold and in your face. I think this has that kind of a vibe to it.
But the opening logo now is a shot of the Burbank studio, and then it flips into that, and it's just like, but if you go through the history of the Warner Brothers, shield, it's it took a while for them to get to the blue sky, the one we're seeing friggin' here now, that one. But that ran from 1948 to 1967. Then they brought back a similar version in 1970. And then from 1984 until 2020, they're like, everyone likes this logo. They had a brief period, of course, where I think we talked about it actually during our Joker review, because they had that red, black and white one.
Oh, yeah.
That was really different looking from... that was in the 70s during the kind of new Hollywood period, and I think the Joker movie brought that back because that's what they're trying to evoke, a kind of 70s grungy kind of movie. But yeah, to me it is very much I'll accept it, and I'm sure they'll probably end up judging by the past. They already brought it back a bunch of times. So.
Oh yeah, they'll always dip back into that well.
Yeah, but the thing is, then of course that's. Apparently back in 1989 was controversial for the Warner Brothers logo to change at all. But now it morphs into this iced bat symbol, which I absolutely love. I think that's a great touch.
I think it's fantastic. And at the same, it does give you a weird vibe, though, if you've not seen the movie, of oh, this is going to be like Returns. Because it looks a bit like the Returns one. Because that's all kind of icy as well. They're going for the whole penguin theme, with the snow and things. So it kind of reminded me of that. So if you've not seen this before, you might be like, "Ooh, we're in for a dark movie."
But that's the thing. Like, it's not the only Batman movie to do this. Far from it, actually. Because, of course, soon after this movie came out, you had Batman and Mr. Freeze, Sub-Zero, the animated spin-off from the Batman animated series, which they brought out. I think they were initially trying to capitalize on, like, oh, Mr. Freeze is, like, a big deal now. We did Mr. Freeze really well. We'll make another movie, like, a la, like a sequel to Mask of the Phantasm. And, have Mr. Freeze as the villain. And apparently, because of the critical mauling this got, they delayed the release.
Oh.
You can see a lot of the tie-ins, though, because, like, they bring it out. And at no point in the animated series does Batman have, like, a red logo. But they have him with, like, the black bat symbol in the crest. But the crest is red this time. And then you hear, like, the Mr. Freeze ray and freezes over the logo. And then it also smashes, like the logo here. But weird, though, because if you've seen Mask of the Phantasm, you'll recall, like, oh, yeah, Shirley Walker at this point has got her claws very firmly into the animated series. And, like, the opening of Mask of the Phantasm is a phenomenal bit of music comes on because she's scoring that. And then, Sub-Zero, they go back to the Elfman theme. So you're sitting watching and it's like, oh, that's the Danny Elfman Batman music. What's happened here?
Oh, interesting choice, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess they used to use the Elfman theme way back in the early days of the animated series, and I guess they're like, you know what, just we're not going out, we're not pushing the boat out for this one again.
Although every time you said Sub-Zero, I just thought, now Plane Zero.
Oh, that will come up again for many, many reasons, actually, but revolving around Mr. Freeze. But of course, that's not even the only other movie to do the bat symbol in ice. John, you have seen the other movie that does this. As you might recall, The Dark Knight Rises does the same damn thing.
Yeah.
And I remember even at the time, like in the cinema, been like, oh, that's Batman and Robin did that. Like,
maybe it's a deliberate nod.
There's a couple of weird ties because, like, obviously, the first Batman Begins, you got this swarm of bats with the bat symbol. It's like, oh, that's awesome. Dark Knight is, the silent wall of blue flame, and you see the symbol come out, and it's like, oh, that's pretty cool as well. Dark Knight Rises, disappointing to many people for many reasons, and I was a bit gutted to, like, oh, they've just done ice. And like, it's like, I've seen the Batman and Robin weirdly did that better. Like,
hey, it does everything better, baby.
But of course, other ties to Dark Knight Rises is like, it's got that. Then of course it has Bane in it as well. So, like, it's like, oh, the Chris Nolan inadvertently referencing it with that as well. Particularly the role that Bane ends up inevitably playing, where he's basically the lackey to a female villain. It's like, oh, that's what Bane does in this movie as well.
You know what? I was going to save this, but it's going to be a while till we get to Bane. So I'm just going to say it now, but in case I forget or change my mind. I think this movie's Bane is better. And I'm not being funny. I'm not making a joke. Having rewatched it 2 days ago, I think this is a better Bane.
I'll save it, because that's going to be... like, me and you are going to have a misunderstanding, John. But the thing is, as well, on top of that, because if you watch the trailer for Batman and Robin, and the trailer for The Dark Knight Rises, it has our old friend, that I think we've complained about several times, if not on this main show, definitely on the Patreon. There's a deleted scene from this movie where Mr. Freeze says, "There's a storm coming." And then in Dark Knight Rises, Catwoman, during that dance sequence, is like, "There's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne." And every time I hear it, it's like, "Goddamn storm's coming, Jesus Christ."
I can only let it slide when it's Terminator. At the end of Terminator, it's like you're in tears, like, oh my God.
Well, things like, it's 84, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's like, well, by all means, go for it. It's actually weird enough that, Terminator, Arnie, it has a weird everything's connected right there. But
there's a lot of connections, I think, with the physicality, which we'll get into in the next few minutes, of Mr. Freeze. The way he moves. It's very Terminator-like.
But the fact that Joel Schumacher and the crew of Batman and Robin are like, maybe we cut the "there's a storm coming" line. Maybe that's old hat. Whereas Chris Nolan was like, this is integral. I want it front and center of the marketing.
He was bringing it back into vogue.
Well, it did not work, because
God damn it.
Every time it's like every time I hear that someone's the key, Like, it's even, again, in friggin' Zack Snyder's Batman versus Superman, when the Flash comes back to Bruce Wayne, he's like, Lois is the key. I'm like, the key? Can you not come up with a better term for this? This is so dated.
Yeah,
Come on.
Yeah, no, I get that. I agree. Yeah, I don't like the key. It just makes me think of Buffy as well with her sister.
Dawn.
Yeah, Dawn is the key. You're like, okay, that was what, early 2000s? That one? Like,
yeah. I also, I always just think of, because my mind always goes there, Frank Langella in Masters of the Universe shouting, the key! Get the key!
See, this movie has a lot in common with Masters of the Universe, I think.
This movie, actually, now I'm going to have to ponder that. Is this movie as good as Masters of the Universe?
I think it's better. I have more fun, and I like Masters of the Universe. But while we're on the shield and everything and the logo and whatnot, I did a little bit of Warner Brothers research because I thought, well, we've talked about them a million times. We don't want to go too much. So I thought, well, I'll see what they released in the interim between movies. And of course, big company. They released a lot of films.
All they released was Dennis the Menace.
I wrote down some of my favorite choices. Not necessarily ones I like, but ones that I think the listeners might like as well. You know, like spread it around. So Empire Records came out in the interim, which I love. You don't.
I cannot get into this, and I keep trying, and fans of the movie have flat out said to me, like, you're 33. If you're not into it now, like, you ain't gonna get into it.
Yeah,
like,
I think you've missed the boat, maybe. It's an early 20s kind of film, maybe.
I saw it when I was like 15, which I thought would be the ideal time. But it's like, no, I hated it then. I hate it now. It's just like, it does not gel with me whatsoever.
Well, another one they released was Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. So keeping it in the Carey family.
It's like whether the specter of Jim Carrey haunting this spot because you can't get the guy clawed off. It's like, we're done. We're done with you, Jim. Get the hell away from us.
Fine, we'll pick something else. They also released Heat.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
Popular.
Val Kilmer. Mm-hmm. Val Kilmer, of course.
Well, I picked these, right, without thinking of all the connections, and then I made connections later. So Ace Ventura, yeah. Then we've got Val. They also released Eraser.
Oh, well, yep.
Yeah, Arnold.
I think I would say Eraserhead.
Yeah, Eraserhead was re-released in the interim. Yes.
Oh man, there's gotta be a meme of Eraser and Eraserhead, like Arnie with the hair or something.
Oh my god, yeah! Somebody please Photoshop, or at least just Photoshop Jack Nance's head onto Arnie's body on the Eraser poster.
Yeah.
Because I can still see the poster for Eraser. It didn't do well at the time, but I like it. And the gun in it, if I remember, influences one of the weapons in the game Perfect Dark, the gun that can shoot through walls. And also, Mars Attacks came out in the interim, something we're intimately familiar with, and it's got Jack Nicholson in it.
Of course.
There's all kinds of connections going on. Oh God, what else have I've got? A big lit Twister. I don't think that has a connection, does it? But that was very popular when it came out.
Everyone's still waiting for Twister Minutes, which was apparently somebody was making at one point.
You know what? I would listen to that because it's such a specific period of time where these disaster movies came out. Like, but they weren't disaster movies like you got in the 2000s. They were very different, like Twister, and there was another like tornado one, wasn't there? I can't remember. And then there was like Dante's Peak.
Oh yeah, and Volcano, of course.
Volcano,
yeah.
It's very different. It's very specific. Disaster. It's not like the world is ending. What else? I've got Space Jam was released.
Hey, about and sequel imminent
with apparently Jim Carrey.
But yeah, potentially it seems as if Jim Carrey's in it, but it's weird because it's like it was supposed to be out last year. It might be out this year. It might be streaming. It might be in theaters. You can't tell anymore.
And then you had all those people complaining that they made the bunny less sexy. And I don't mean bugs.
Right. Yeah. Oh, they think of the Lola bunny is now flat chested. And I've seen arguments on both sides because they're saying like, well, by defeminizing the character, is that not inherently kind of sexist in a way? Who say, well, to improve her, we have made her more boyish.
Well,
and it's like, well,
I get it. It's a kids movie. You don't. People were really pushing the boat with Who Framed Roger Rabbit being kind of seen by kids, you know? It probably shouldn't have been, but it was. And it's like, well, she shouldn't be too sexy.
But I have asked you, John, if not from Space Jam 2, which film is going to spawn the next generation of furries?
Well,
Like,
true.
Look, Lola Bunny's responsible for the sexual awakening of so many people. And now it's just going to be like, I'm sure some people will probably be like, oh, yeah, but like, who, if they're not going to get off to Lola, who are they going to get off to? Friggin' Daffy?
Well, why not?
I mean, some people probably do have a thing for Daffy Duck too.
I mean, we grew up in the era of Howard the Duck, so we saw Howard's magazines he was reading in the bath.
They saw, duck boobs in the.
Oh yeah. The only other movie I wrote down was everybody's favorite, the Oscar-winning, I believe, Joe's Apartment. Which when it came out, I genuinely liked it, but I bet if I watched it now, it would be an absolute turd.
I think that did get like Oscars for like effects.
Oh, did it? I was taking the mick. I was joking.
I think it was regarded as been like people like critical bomb, but like well these effects with the bugs and stuff ain't bad.
I still just remember the song as well. Welcome to Joe's Apartment. I really liked it. It's probably awful. I can't imagine that holds up in any shape or form. It's worse than Batman and Robin. I'm saying it now, and I haven't even seen it since it came out.
But that's as we'll go through, a lot of films that are worse than Batman and Robin. But yeah. So is that your list?
That's it. There's more, but I'm not going through every Warner Brothers movie. But we do then cool as ice slide into the credits, the opening credits, and I was instantly startled by something. Arnie gets top billing.
That's right.
Ooh, that's got to hurt Clundog, right?
The thing is, at the time, I think Clooney would be like, understandable.
It's understandable, but it's like, you're Batman and you're second?
But the thing is, there's a precedent, because Jack Nicholson, well, of course, was top billed in the first movie.
I know,
so.
but it was amazing they did it the first time, let alone a second.
But again, I think at the time, I totally understand. And I think even the actors themselves were like, yeah, Jack Nicholson was the bigger name at the time. And at this time, this is the beginning of the end for Arnie.
Yeah.
This is like, as you mentioned there, Eraser didn't do well. And it's like Jingle All the Way was like, ooh, this is kind of getting a little bit hokey. And it's like, you can see the downward I don't want to say a spiral, but like...
Yeah, because he's done quite well again recently, actually. He's come up a little bit with that... what's the zombie one? Maggie?
Maggie, yeah.
I love
That's
that.
5 years ago. And that didn't make any money either.
No, but it was fantastic. It wouldn't make money. It's like an indie movie or something.
But it's like but this is, going from like box office giant Arnold Schwarzenegger to like, yeah, you can see like, oh, well, it might be the beginning of the end.
Well, even as a kid, I think, like, I was the Arnie stan, I grew up with my Terminators and everything. Even as a kid, I think you felt a change in the wind.
You could see there's a storm coming.
There was a storm coming, yeah. You could feel it, and not just for Arnie, but for film. There was a very big shift in the style and the tone and things of movies, and this is.
I feel like you should be right. You should have written Arnie's memoirs because you could then put that as the beginning of a channel of a chapter. It's like, oh, no, John Parker's convinced me that wasn't Arnie's problem. It was film in general.
Well, I think it was. I don't blame Arnie. He probably just took roles he was offered. Like, oh, do you want to do this comedy now? Like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah, but it's a general shift in things. There's a lot less grit. Coming. There's a lot more stupidity and nonsense. And someone like Arnie, I don't know, like he works best when he's playing both, like, let's say, kindergarten cop. Like, he's being gruff and tough and rough, but silly.
Yes.
Like, yeah. That's fine. And I actually think it works in this. I think he's great in this. But in some other movies, yeah, Jingle All the Way, as big a fan as I am of it, I understand why it's not regarded as a good film.
Although, that if we continue to do Batman Christmas specials, I mean, what other choices there for the season where we're doing Batman and Robin?
Yeah. I watch it every single Christmas.
Yeah, I've got stories about it, but we'll get to that when we get to that episode, I guess, whenever we do it.
That's a story for another time. But Arnold, we don't want to go too much into him because we're going to be talking about him for a lot of the season. But yeah, I'm a huge fan. I love 90% of his work, even the bad stuff. I love Conan. You don't like Conan, do you? You've brought that up before.
Yeah, I'm not a big Conan guy. No.
I love it all of it, everything.
Should
Including
also
how he
say,
sleeps
though-
with a witch and throws her into a fireplace. That's amazing. He punches a camel in the face.
Twice.
Twice.
Yeah, it comes back. But I will also say, though, as I said, like, I love the opening titles of Forever. These ones have dated better, I think. Because
Oh.
Forever one had the weird, like, the multicolored, it looked like a screensaver where the names were kind of bouncing around the screen and stuff. It looked a bit
Okay.
off. The bit at the end with the Forever was awesome. But this actually, I think, still works. Like actually, you should say, because we have mentioned, actually, in the last season, the immense influence of the Batman animated series on Joel Schumacher's work. And, of course, it cuts now to the Red Sky, which is, Red Robin, I guess, and Poison Ivy, like a rose, like Poison Ivy's hair, that kind of thing. But also, that Red Sky is synonymous with the Batman animated series.
Yeah,
that was
even to me, someone who's not who hasn't seen lots of it, I think of that red.
And of course, you even remember, like, the opening moments of each episode was the Warner Brothers logo morphing into the blimp against the red sky. So it's like they got it up front. It's like this is where we're getting a lot of our ideas from. So
I like that, and I really do love the red sky, and I agree with you on the credits themselves. But the logo of Batman and Robin that flies out of the clouds as the minute ends is some of the worst CGI I've ever seen. I hate it. I hate it.
Shockingly, I'm much more forgiving of that.
Whoa.
Like,
Next minute, I'm going to like it in a way. I don't like the CGI on it. But, I mean, I'll spoil it. I like the combined logo.
yeah.
That's cool.
We'll get to that. That takes up like the first chunk of the next minute. That logo,
So we'll leave that for now. We have in the credits as well Uma Thurman.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was and is such a big crush of mine. In this movie, when I first saw her in this, I might have been a kid, but I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I was like, this woman's amazing.
I think I always had I have nothing against Uma as an actress and as a person, and she obviously is like a great beauty. But like one of my favorite films that she's in is The Truth About Cats and Dogs, which is the Michael Lehman, who directed Heathers, which of course was written by Dan Waters, who did Batman Returns. Everything's connected. But within that movie, like the plot line is that Janine Garofalo is basically doing like a Roxanne or a Cyrano de Bergerac kind of thing, where she is in love with this guy, but she puts forward Uma Thurman to pretend to be her and crushes, but the whole entire time, and to this day, I'm just like, well, I would, and this sounds now very like we're objectifying these two women, which I guess to a certain extent we kind of are, but I was like, oh, I'd much rather go out with Janine Garofalo. She's much more my style than Uma Thurman.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that Uma Thurman is considered such a beauty. I don't mean that as an insult, but what I mean is she's not the stereotype of a pretty woman in Hollywood. You know what I mean? Like, there's something about her. There's an edge. She's quirky. She's odd. So it does surprise me that she is sort of seen in that kind of a way. Like, I would think, I mean, Janine Garofalo is also not like your stereotype Hollywood bombshell, but I think she's a little bit more, I don't want to say normal. That sounds insulting. You know what I mean, though? Like, I think more people would think, oh, she's pretty. We are objectifying people. That's awful. But it started with me because I said, as a kid, Uma was like, in this movie especially, I'd never seen her before.
People can indulge us if we spent 3 seasons talking about whether Jack Nicholson was hot and Chris O'Donnell. Give us this, people. Give us a couple of minutes of this.
And everybody loves Uma in this, I think. Like, she's a huge icon to the queer community in this.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she is a drag queen in this movie.
I think we're going to end up getting very deep into like analysis of like queer cinema, because this is a very camp movie, and it's also a very gay movie.
Oh yeah, even more than the last one.
Oh, exceptionally so. Yeah. Exceptionally so. But that's all talks for later on in the film.
We'll get there.
What's this good to do? Because we get, like, in order, you have Arnold up front, Clooney, Chris O'Donnell, then Uma. And the thing is, when it gets to like Chris and Uma, they start putting in sound effects to like belie their character a bit. And I love it, like, you know, because it has Chris O'Donnell, and then you get the credit zooms off with the sound of a motorbike. I was like, oh yeah, he's a biker. And I particularly love Uma's. Hers is the best because it has the kind of smooch sound and the because it's like Poison Ivy kissing people. And then the thing is, it gets to Alicia Silverstone, and then that's just another motorbike. That's like, you kind of lays out a bit there. I know she's also a biker, but like,
you've got a lot of other things to work with.
Yeah, you should have the computer keys clacking.
Yeah,
that's what Barbara Gordon is not in this movie, but the character that Alicia Silverstone is supposed to be playing is based on Barbara Gordon. And again, her computer skills are an integral part of what makes her, you know, part of the team.
Well, as we're going to see, it's kind of setting her up as like, oh, here's your new Alfred.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, so I thought that was a bit lazy. And then also, I don't think Arnie or George really get one. Like, Arnie should be like, oh, put the freeze ray.
Yeah, just...
Yeah. Or hit like the... And then, like, Clooney put friggin' the sound of the cape flapping. Or, like, to me, George Clooney, I can barely picture him when he's not wearing a tuxedo with the bow tie undone. He always seems to be in that state.
Yeah.
So if you just put in, like, the sound effect of a bow tie coming undone... I'd be like, yeah,
how do you
Clooney.
even do that? What the hell?
It's like,
okay, it works. I'm on board.
And of course, Joel Schumacher's credits should have been the sound of a man thrusting.
A creaking bed.
Yeah. Some, I don't know, butt cheeks clapping or something like that.
Hell yeah. Or just a zip coming undone.
There's weird things with zip. I've got a whole thing about zips in the next minute.
Oh, I know where you're going with that. Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, then we get to the bit I mentioned, the CGI renditions of the logos fly out of the clouds as the minute ends.
Yeah. It's we're starting off strong, I think, with these with these credits. Again, got some good Goldenthal music. I think it doesn't quite as blend as well as it did. With like the motion of what was happening, because the first movie that he did, it felt very much like the names were perfectly timed with the musical themes and stuff.
Yeah, to the swells and the beats and things.
Yeah, this one it feels a bit out of sync. It's like, oh, this, I don't know. Is there more names? So think of that. Forever you had Kilmer, Carey, Kidman, Tommy Lee Jones, Chris O'Donnell. So that's 5.
It's the same, isn't it?
Now this one is Clooney, Schwarzenegger, Alicia, Uma Thurman, Chris O'Donnell. Yeah, so it's 5 for 5.
They just couldn't be bothered.
I prefer these graphics, but yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't feel. It feels like you shouldn't be doing the music at that point. It shouldn't be like this, But
I guess it could be a time issue, syncing it all up. You want to do that, like John Williams. But not everyone gets to.
Yeah, but yeah, that's minute 1. Any other notes I have on this could be like passed on into other minutes. So
yeah, let's save it. We got a long way to go. Yeah. It's a long movie. I didn't remember how long it was.
Oh yeah. Oh god, yeah. Dude, it's over 2 hours. So
we're here for the long haul.
I wonder if that's a hard rule with Batman movies. Like, they gotta be over 2 hours. It's like, you gotta get your money's worth. It's like, to be something come out, it's like, the Batman with Robert Pattinson, 70 minutes. Like, come on, waiting to see this thing, like 5 years. Jesus Christ.
Oh, that would be
70 minutes.
So funny if they did that. I would just wet myself laughing.
Like, you had 4 hours of goddamn Snyder last year. We're getting 70. That's all you're getting this year.
Yeah, you got your fill with the Snyder cut. We don't need too much of the Batman. And we will depart into the dark, dark night. So
we have got a lot more stuff to get into. We got 120 odd episodes of this. So
I'm excited. I'm loving it already. This is great. So do come and talk to us on Facebook at the Bat Minute Listeners Cave, Twitter at Bat Minute, Instagram the Bat Minute, and come and check us out on Patreon. Look us up, the Sleepy Charlie Media Patreon. So do that and join us next time for minute 2 of Bat Minute and Robin.
Next time, you want to get butts? Come on, let's get butts. Assemble Synergy brings the Bat brand new energy as Schumacher's awesomely awful opus gets underway. There's suits, boots, and a bounty of bat and bird-based loot. But, ass, we're treated to echoes of forever. Whose buns are we seeing wrapped in rubber? We meet Clundog and Chris in an episode you won't want to miss next time, Bat Minute Mites. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
We'll be back.
Arr.